Now
Hey,
we're
we're finally live. Now we're live. Uh, Greg Siska and Chuck Cook, great to be with you today. We're going to excuse our partner Aaron, who's traveling today. Don't know
Where's
whether
he
he's
going?
coming or going, but
Someplace good?
how was your Thanksgiving, Greg? Was it good?
Thanksgiving was very nice on here. I had a lot of good food. I did some good biking. I did some good running, and saw a lot of family. Everybody was nice to each other. It was
Yeah,
good.
it was. Fortunately, we don't have that crazy uncle in our table anymore. So
Yeah.
but we actually ended up going to Dollywood over the weekend.
One of my favorites.
One of the most iconic amusement parks in the world.
Yeah.
From one of the
Love
most
that
iconic American singers.
Love Sevier County.
It's just a lovely place. Just a lovely place. We just had a blast. Kids in town. It was great. It's love taking little grandkids on those little rides. They're like,
Oh yeah, no, that's the best.
All right, let's talk about what's going on. I think the number one issue, and again, I don't want to get Lily mad at me, so I'm going to make sure I put up the correct hashtag for Goh DV2021. As everybody knows, the government appealed. I think
I don't think everybody knows that.
Well, it was like an hour after our last live.
We were kind of expecting it, but they really waited.
Well, we knew they were going to do it because they essentially named us in the good luck appeal, which really kind of was and kind of wasn't us, but it's evident they were going to appeal. They're not going to appeal.
At the end of the day, we were still trying to figure out, like, what is the motivation policy-wise in trying to screw over the DVs when they have an opportunity with the judge saying you can do this. What was the motivation for them to try and screw these people over? I still don't understand sort of how that fits into their philosophy as far as.
The thing is, I think they just have a lot of anti-immigrant people working at the Department of State these days, I guess. I mean, I can't imagine there's any legitimate.
The White House ultimately calls the shots here, so they could they could just say this was a choice. Now, being sued is one thing,
right?
Appealing a ruling that favors a policy that ostensibly you agree with is a different story, and that's
such is the dichotomy of the Biden administration, speaking out of both sides of their mouth at the same time.
Right. So we use that as an opportunity. A lot of people ask us, like, how do we get more numbers? Do we agree with the judges? I mean, there were a lot of things we didn't agree with, but overall it was, better than losing. And we had debated whether to appeal or not. And one thing we didn't, we're nervous about is, like, if you appeal, you could lose everything.
Right.
On here. So the government essentially, took that issue away and opened up the opportunity for us to, and this may be news to some people, is that we filed a cross appeal yesterday, and it's just a notice, but we intend to argue that the judge, his methodology, while we agree that, with the judge that overall that it was, that he granted more visas, we think that even using his own methodology, the number should have been higher. So that's what we're essentially arguing in our appeal, is not to argue for every visa, but to at least get the number higher.
I would be clear. We're going to argue that every one of our plaintiffs should get a visa.
Right.
Let's be clear. That is the primary purpose, to get all of our clients visas. Because while I understand where the judge was coming from, it's inherently unfair in a system where our plaintiffs have not only gone to the limit of getting their stuff done, which
right.
Not every DV winner does. He treated our plaintiffs as if they were part of a bigger pool of winners, when in fact they're not. They're part of a self-selected group that wanted to move forward.
Right. They risk more to litigate.
Yeah, and they had a very high probability of getting the visa. In a normal year, virtually everybody who was our plaintiff probably would have gotten, at least they would have gotten an interview. Okay, they would have gotten an interview because they were early adopters. They went in first. These are the people that would have gotten visas. To treat them as if they were just some random guy who put a lottery, who never responded to the Department of State, is inherently unfair to our plaintiffs. So that's where we're going to go with this, and we're going to try to seek seek all the visas, and we'll see what happens. I mean, how long does an appeal take? Well, this is not there's two things that come up. How long does the appeal take, and does the appeal affect the issuance of the visas? Both legitimate and good questions.
Right.
First,
And maybe we'll be mooted out by some good legislation.
And that's the thing, is that if legislation passes, this case kind of goes away. In the context of, what are we fighting over?
We will be happy to end this fight if we got that bill passed, because it essentially gives everything that we're asking for in the case.
But if that doesn't pass, and we're not saying it's going to pass, and honestly, I still just slightly below the 50% mark in optimism on that.
A little higher than it was maybe a week.
I was 20% last Monday, and I'm up to almost 49 at this point. Only because some of them I've been reading, but we'll see. So it could, appeals like this, a year and a half. I mean,
so
wouldn't be unusual.
But Chuck, the judge has to make Judge Maida will have to make a decision, and despite the appeal, the government doesn't get out of complying with.
And that's the second question. That's the second question.
So that's what we're going to fight over for now. Is that if you want to appeal, fine, but that should not give you a delay in giving these people the justice that the judge is ordering.
Now, I don't recall whether in our specific case the judge ordered a report on the progress. I was under the impression, again, it's been a while since I've read it, that they in fact in January have to issue a report to the judge on how many visas. That might be in the Gomez case. I don't recall, but we would certainly ask for that if that becomes the case. But the government will have to move for a stay of the judge's order. A stay is not automatic in this case. So they have not moved for a stay yet. They've also issued, as far as I can tell, Greg, no visas to our clients or to anybody else's clients. And I would have anticipated they would start doing that for January. According to Britt Simon, we should be starting to get appointments for January because they've essentially issued no DVs in the first quarter of the year. So that's kind of where we are on Go. I think I saw some questions about this.
Yeah, and I'm also going to be posting shortly an interest form on the DV2022 possibilities for litigating. We have not made any firm decisions on that. We just want, we want to start to get with an idea of how many people are interested in pursuing that. But Chuck's right. I mean, we haven't seen any evidence that the government is going to be improving things for this fiscal year. We'll just have to, we'll set the data, but we're going to start collecting information from potential plaintiffs soon. So just keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I'm hopping over to the Department of State's visa statistics page, Greg, to take a look. And near as I can tell, they have not published any 2022 numbers. They have not published their October numbers. What are they afraid of? They were publishing the numbers like in the early weeks of the following month for the previous month.
Evidence.
They're hiding everything. They're hiding everything. So that's kind of where we are on Goh DV2021 and Gomez. I just, as a note, they've issued no visas. All right. So, and again, I assume they're going to appeal Gomez. Well, Gomez is not. Wait a second.
Gomez
One of the cases is not final yet. Good Luck's not final. That's right. Good Luck is still. They appealed the Good Luck injunction, but not the Good Luck decision because there is no Good Luck decision. They're still in the middle of summary judgment in that case.
Right.
So presumably they've appealed Gomez or will and.
But I mean, they're both with the same judge. So essentially, I mean, I think it really sort of like is all in Judge Maida's hands what he wants to happen, because they can appeal all they want, but if the judge gives them some time frames under which they have to abide by, I mean, I guess they can appeal the whatever Judge Maida orders. But the likelihood is that if a judge decides to put his to put his foot down on it, they're going to have to start issuing visas.
Okay. And again, for DV2022, we'll put interest. Oh, by the way, Greg, we probably need to send an email out to our Go plaintiffs to let them know we've appealed and the status of the case. So,
okay,
that's a good thing for us to get out to these folks. Now, Greg, the next thing I want to talk about today is our visa fee litigation case. This is a brand new case. This is about, and this is interesting, we're not charging to do this case, it's free.
Right.
So if you paid a fee to the Department of State, you know, an MRV fee, a CVIS fee to get a visa.
Right, that would be ICE, but we're pursuing the U.S. government here. Not,
that's right. So
not,
if you paid fees and had your interviews canceled or visas denied because of the bans, this litigation is for you. We're basically seeking to recover your fee.
Right. And some of these people, I mean, if you were like a J1 or an F1, I mean, you paid $200 or $300 for CVIS, depending on which category you're in. And then you paid, you know, what, $160 to the consulate for the MRV,
whatever that happens to be. It's a weird number, like 100
right? So
or something.
It's not insignificant money, and some people paid it multiple times because every time they canceled, you needed to rebook, you had to pay the fee again on there. And they have not refunded a dime to anybody, even though this is all on them. This is not like they took the time to make a decision and then denied you. They just denied you outright on an illegal issue, which we've already litigated. That's kind of the beauty of the last year. We've litigated this issue over and over again about travel bans, and every court that's looked at the issue has said that is illegal. You cannot ban visas because of 212F. Yet they did so, and they denied people on that ground, which means that they need to be refunding money to people that they denied on an illegal ground. So even if you got adjudicated and were denied on that ground, not that they said that you know, if they said you didn't qualify for a tourist visa because you had immigrant intent or whatever, you know, that's a different story. But if you applied and the only reason you got denied was because of a travel ban or a Muslim ban or a immigrant visa ban or a non-immigrant visa ban, and they cited 212F, you are eligible for the litigation, and we are going to try and get your money back. So we're charging on, you know, with the traditional way that firms do on this, on a contingency fee basis, which means that we'll only collect if we recover money from the government, and then the plaintiffs don't have to pay anything to be in the suit. This is different than our other suits where there was no money to collect from the government. So the only way that we could afford to litigate was with with plaintiffs paying. In this case, we actually are going to make the government pay for this litigation, not you guys.
And here is the link if you want more information about this. There's FAQ and a sign up information there.
Great, Chuck. There's a second. I want to also mention the second class subclass. So it's really important. We just mentioned those of you who are like basically paid a visa fee and didn't get anything in return. There's also a separate issue that we've discovered with the help of our co-counsel, Brent Renison. Some of you may know Brent, who's an excellent litigator. He did the research and discovered that the State Department has been overcharging for machine-readable visa fees for about 8 years, and they were in depth. It was explained to them by the Office of Inspector General and why they were that they were overcharging for machine-readable visa fees, and they were told to cut it out. They said, no, we don't agree with with your determination on that, and they continue to overcharge for the last several years. So we are also suing on behalf of anybody who applied for a visa, whether you were approved or not, you were overcharged. And we want the State Department to pay back that overcharge. That's a very, very easy call, because that applies to a good chunk of you. If you ever applied for an H-1B visa in the last 5 years, you're eligible. Any kind of machine readable visa. It's basically non-immigrants we're talking about here. So if that was you, regardless of whether you were subject to a ban or not, you are eligible for that litigation if you paid that machine readable visa fee since January 1st, 2016.
And of course, it costs you nothing to do this.
Costs you nothing, and it basically, I think, will send a very loud message to the State Department that they don't get to they don't get to screw over their customers. Wouldn't work if a private business was doing it. It shouldn't work when the government's doing it.
All right, our next, so sign up. We'd love to have you as part of that case. Greg, our EAD case.
Yes.
This is we filed a class action against the USCIS for its failure to timely adjudicate EADs. And that's mostly adjustment of status applicants that have been waiting for 6, 8, 10, 12 months at this point, because clearly there are people at the year mark, they're clearly there at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unconscionable. So we have filed that. We're about to add some more plaintiffs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we have a couple dozen more plaintiffs that are going to be added on in that case. And I think our hope is that the government doesn't just string us out on this. That we'd like to sit down with them and work out a solution. I mean, obviously we want our plaintiffs to get their EADs, but beyond that, we're thinking about the fact that our plaintiffs are going to be applying again and again for EAD extensions in a lot of cases because some of them are in adjustment categories that have retrogressed. But we want to fix these issues more broadly. And we think a lot of people at USCIS would like to fix these issues more broadly. And a settlement is something that, is a way to accomplish that. So we're not, we're not like some law firms that will say, right up front, we never settle on it. We would be happy to settle for some good policy if the government wants to sit down with us, and I'm sure some of them probably watch.
Well, they just did this for their friend Wasden and Bonias's lawsuit with ALA, and we're working with ALA on this case as well, in regards to spouses of L's and E's. Although I have to tell you, I'm not particularly enamored with that settlement because I think the statement would simply be, if you're an L2 or an E2, you can work. Just go to work. Show them your visa. That's it. But they're making this complicated thing where they have to get a stamp on your passport from the CBP, and that seems wildly unnecessary to me. I think they're concerned about children.
Yeah,
have an L2.
That's such a big problem in America right now. Are kids that are presumably between 16 and 21 that are in the tightest labor supply that we have right now is probably for the jobs that they would be taking on there, that they want to be super careful.
How many could there possibly be? 50,000, 30,000, 20,000?
It's just ridiculous where they where they
and they still
they lose the forest through the trees, I guess is the
and they still haven't resolved the H4 issue. I mean, despite
right. That part of the settlement, it was completely worthless because of the fact that the EADs and the H4s expire at the same time. So virtually, what do we think? Like 5% of the H4s out there might benefit from that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they keep separating H4s from the H renewals and not allowing premium processing of H4s, it's useless. They're not committing. We'll commit to do them within 100, blah 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 blah. This is why the litigation is so necessary. And if you read our complaint, I think you would see that they are clearly violating exactly what they told the public they would do when they got rid of the 90-day rule. I mean, they're just clearly violating it.
One good piece of news on that is even though H4s are not in our litigation, they are in another case that ALA is co-counsel on. And so we're hoping that this trio, well, actually there's 4 cases. There's one for asylum EADs. There's another one on H4s. There's our case for adjustment EADs and E2 EADs. And then there was the Wasden Bonias case for the L2s and the H4s. So between those 4 cases, hopefully USCIS will get tired and will just do the right thing and reach an agreement on how they're going to solve this problem.
Just like Department of State does, right?
They love to lose.
Hey, just update on the H-1B lottery abuse case because it's so in the news, right? They came out and they did a third lottery, which we told them they were going to do, and they signed a sworn declaration that they were not going to do. But we told them they were because statistically they have to because of the massive fraud. And Greg, I shared with you this was reported in the Daily Caller.
Oh my God. This was kind of like the funny thing. Chuck and I were going back and forth. It's like, these are usually not publications that we want to get anywhere near because they hate immigrants generally. But it happened to be in this case that they were reporting on something that I think is still important public policy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's going to happen again, Greg. I mean,
It shouldn't be. This shouldn't be a partisan thing, but they sort of like anything that makes the Biden administration look bad. I think they're happy to report it.
And we did file with the court our own supplement to the motion, to the response to the motion to dismiss, saying, look, we told them that was going to happen, Judge, and it's probably going to happen a fourth time. They just didn't request enough people. The thing is, Rick, they haven't said how many visas they've actually issued, have they?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand why they don't seem interested in fixing this problem on their own. I mean, surely they don't think this is a good. This is a good.
How is this not a waste of their time? This is a gigantic waste of their time.
Yeah, I mean,
to have to do this over and over again.
I guess they probably just don't. They feel like they don't have a solution. Yeah.
Well, there is a solution. It's really simple. You amend the regulation and say you can only be filed for one time. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
No. I agree. Although they, but them even issuing a regulation seems like a monumental lift for them.
I mean, this is like a one-page Federal Register change.
Yeah, I agree on that, but that's easy for us to say, hard for them to deliver.
Yeah, well, that's true. On all our K-1 cases, just FYI, we're still waiting for the judge in each of these different cases to get back to us. We're hamstrung. We have filed the notice with the court. We've dismissed plaintiffs who've gotten their visas. And much like the judge in the H-1B lottery abuse, we're just literally waiting on a decision.
Hey, Chuck, I think one thing that is kind of interesting is that I mean, it's not really these cases, but the visa processing, I've been trying to sort of get a handle on what the Biden administration's position is right now on visa issuance in the new banned countries, because, certainly in Milligan, we had a bunch of plaintiffs from South Africa on there, but, and I don't think, even though the Biden administration said this morning, they said, this is it, we're not adding more countries to this list. I don't believe that. I think if the situation changes, they'd be more than willing to do it again. But they did say, does say on the Johannesburg website right now, for the consular website, that they have not suspended visa processing.
Wait. They canceled all the visa appointments for December.
Right, because the consulate itself, I think, is they're in a lockdown. But what I'm saying on there is that they are not citing the ban as a reason for not issuing visas. In fact, they said the opposite on the website. Now, as far as canceling appointments, that's they could say that that's not because of 212F. It's simply because our people are not coming into the building, which is a different story. But I have not seen anything yet that appears to where they are taking the position that 212F justifies a visa ban, at least, at the consular level on that. And I think it'll be real interesting to see that, because that'll be an interesting follow-up to, our litigation, obviously, is whether that's the first instance where they are taking a new position on the ground across the board and not just for our plaintiffs.
Well, I was looking, I was going to their website here in Johannesburg, and they basically say, announce a travel restriction, which is different, due to detection does not apply to U.S. citizens. Read more. Let's see what else. Suspension of entry. So there's nothing about visa issuance, but if you cancel all the interviews, it's essentially a visa ban. We actually have a pending mandamus right now against Johannesburg for one of our clients. We've got one of those right now. So we actually at the forefront of that litigation. It's been pending now for almost 60 days.
Yeah.
So there we go, the travel ban. Greg, do you want to briefly talk about the reconciliation bill? I'm
not going to get into sort of the details of what's in that bill, because we've done that in the past.
No. If you've heard, what have you heard?
There's there's a couple things that are going on. One is that the parliamentarian, a lot of people say, when is Durbin going to present the backlog reduction language and this and that? And it's like, the parliamentarian has the language because the House passed a bill So she is reviewing the language in that bill. It's not what the Democrats are presenting. Now, the Democrats can choose to brief certain issues and argue certain issues that they want to highlight, but she's going to have to give a blessing to all the language that's in the House bill. So don't worry about whether she's going to only look at one aspect of it. It's a package. What we have heard is that it is that I guess it's tea leaf reading, is that she's asking questions about budgetary impact of the parole provisions, in particular right now, which is the part that they are frankly a lot more worried about. And that is seen as a very good sign, because it looks like she's getting down to the the bare knuckles. Like, does this have a budgetary impact, which is what you hope that she's going to be looking at. They have they spent $2 billion in there to give USCIS the money to actually implement the program. They have a overall budget, I guess, $107 billion for this whole package of reforms on there. And then there's a lot of fiscal impacts that happen when you give people work authorization and all that. So if she's focused on that, that's a good sign. Whether that means, that doesn't mean that she's not going to ultimately say that the other issue prevails, but it does look like that is making a difference, because apparently that did not happen with Plan A and Plan B that were presented to her.
That's right. She just went right off on them. Boom. No.
Right. So she didn't even get to that place in decision making. So that's seen as something that's very positive by Democrats. I did hear from a couple of people that it appears that they are not concerned about the parliamentarian and the backlog reduction language, that they feel like with that, it's that she doesn't have issues with that, and that will make it in on there. So I feel like, the odds of the immigration language making it into a bill are better than 50-50, maybe 60-40, but then you still have to pass this bill, which brings the odds back down maybe to 50-50, because we don't have any indication yet that the 50th vote is there. It's one guy, Senator Manchin, West Virginia. I don't know whether they have to build a high-speed rail through his state or what they have to do to make West Virginia happy. I do know that Senator Byrd, who caused this whole crisis because he's the one who created this crazy system, he was famous for bringing home the bacon to West Virginia. There is a lot of federal government, big projects, big headquarters, all kinds of things that are in West Virginia because Senator Byrd used his power to do that. And if Senator Manchin is
chip off the old block.
Byrd was his mentor, I guess.
Yeah.
On there, my thinking is that he is doing what West Virginia senators have done for decades on here. So I'm hoping that there is something that he has in mind that is deliverable. And presidents tend to get what they want from their own party. Maybe not from the other party, but they tend to get what they want ultimately from their own party. So that makes me a little more optimistic, but I still would putting my odds at about 50-50.
I'm at 49. We're just a little bit more pessimistic. Let's ask some questions today. We got Gru Marco. Did the government need permission from the Solicitor General to appeal the Goh case? Yes, they did. And apparently the Solicitor General said yes. So that is wildly disappointing.
Yeah.
Wildly disappointing. Abdul Samad Fadul, what is the expectation of CIS getting a stay of the order, and can you guess the percentage? And I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about. I think he's referring to Department of State, because he's got a follow-up question here because it talks about the number of visas.
So, yeah.
It's Department of State, not USCIS. I don't know. I don't think the judge is going to be predisposed to let them continue not issuing visas, especially when we point out, if they do make this motion, that they're still not issuing 2022 visas. Because the last thing, if you remember in oral argument with them, I did jokingly say, well, Judge, maybe I'll see you next year. And he said, I'm like, I hope not. So, I don't think Judge is going to be very happy about giving a stay. But they could also go to the Court of Appeals and ask the Court of Appeals for a stay as well. So, all right. Let's see. How long does it take for the appeal to be resolved? Again, if the stay is granted, it could be, over a year. It could be over a year, easily. Why has no such thing for the 99,000 visas? I don't know, because the Department of State doesn't want to issue the visas, and they're appealing the case. That's why they haven't done it. I mean, clearly. Oh, I love this question. Will we win? Yes, we will win. Because truth and justice frequently prevail in our court system.
Not always, but often.
Frequently. Any update on the H-1B, the abuse lottery abuse case, other than what I previously provided? No. We're still waiting on the judge, on the government's motion to dismiss, which is extraordinarily frustrating, by the way. Because in that case, that is, at this, look, if the judge dismisses the case, we're going to refile to stop the March lottery from occurring the way it's occurred in the past. So at a certain point, I guess we're going to file something with the court and say, Judge, there's another lottery coming up.
That's another one where the USCIS could reach out and come up with some kind of way
to fix it, but they're just not good. They just refuse.
This doesn't need to stay in court. USCIS, no, this should be a problem that they admit to and that they should fix it.
And they clearly know it's a problem. They clearly know. Yeah. Jason Claus, the judge continues not to make a verdict on Ramirez's case. Kenya, would you be wise to request a transfer? You can't request a transfer to a different judge, Jason.
Yeah, you don't get to choose the judge.
You don't get to do that. Any updates on EAD delay? We did update you. I think we're filing the amended complaint with the additional plaintiffs this week, but the clock is ticking on the government. They now have about 5 weeks left to file a response to the complaint. Since on the government approach the Kang case, will it be open to give a negotiation? Will they just try and delay? That's what we don't know. This is something that they should be easily settling with us. But our experience has been that they're going to wait the 60 days that they have to respond. They've been served. The clock is running.
Did they take the full 60? I'm not familiar with all of the process steps in the Shergill litigation, but did they basically, settle with them at the last second, or did they? I
think they entered settlement at the last minute and extended the deadline to file a response, and that's where they ended up. So I don't know why they want to keep fighting and keep losing. How is this good for them to keep losing? Joe, we did talk about DV2020. It's just they've done nothing. They've done nothing. As Mina already talked about the 481 plaintiffs, they should have started processing October 1. That's what they should have done. Let's see. Next step after the government appeal, we answered that question. Any updates on the Build Back Better plan and Plan C? Greg already addressed those for us.
Oh, I should mention on that, December 25th is the target for passing the whole.
Wait a second, Greg. That's freaking Christmas Day.
Well, that will be a great Christmas present, won't it, if they have that immigration language in there.
It's either a national holiday or a Friday night when they pass important stuff.
However, I don't think we're going to have to wait more than another week or so, maybe another week on the parliamentarian to know what her position is. And, if she says no, then we're going to have to do a lot of advocacy to pressure Democrats. They don't, as somebody had said on Twitter, some advocate out there said, you don't get a participation trophy here. If you don't deliver, we're going to hold you accountable. And the Democrats have an option. If the parliamentarian says no, they can get their 40 votes together and get that language in a final bill, and then apply pressure on the whole caucus to vote for the whole bill on there. But you don't get to just say, well, Joe Manchin, it doesn't like this, and we're going to take it out because he's not going to support the whole thing. I
don't think Manchin cares about the immigration stuff, honestly.
Manchin will have an opportunity to vote on this issue, and if he's not part of those 40 votes, say you can vote with the Republicans on that, and that's okay. On there, he will have his say. my guess is that he is not going to kill a final bill if he had an opportunity to vote on this issue and lost.
I agree. I agree. Just so that you know, Mohammed, you missed our earlier discussion. We are seeking the issuance of visas for every plaintiff, not just the 481 the judge has set aside.
Right.
Luis Rodriguez, what should we for the government? Was it 60-day wait started? 60-day wait had started 3 weeks ago when we filed the case. And they have 60 days to respond or file a motion to dismiss. They haven't even entered their appearance. We have nobody we can talk to. The moment they enter their appearance, we will begin settlement discussions and say, look, what do you want to do here?
Right.
Because we're willing to settle this case. We have a lot of plaintiffs. I mean, but because we filed a class action, they can't moot everybody out. I mean, this is, I guess Greg noted, we want to change policy with this and get our clients their cards.
Right.
So, kind of where they are. What would be the probability of fourth lottery? Well, Monroe, that's a good question. And that was answered by one of our plaintiffs who thinks there's a high probability that there is a fourth lottery in this case.
What was the number? 16,000 in third lottery?
Yes, I think that was right.
I mean, it's just extraordinary that there were still that many that were available, considering that they had 200,000 people apply in the original lottery.
It's not extraordinary when you realize the amount of the fraud that's going on.
Well, right. Now that we know why it's happening, but it's still, I mean, if you didn't know about all the fraud that was happening, that would be fairly shocking.
I'm surprised more people haven't, besides the Daily Caller, which clearly said, look, there's a direct line.
Was it Daily Caller or Breitbart?
It was Breitbart. Well, I get them confused. They're the same, to me, they're the same thing. I'm sorry. But it's a good article. I mean, I get there's a lot of
they quote me a lot, usually because they take a tweet and embed it in one of their stories that I did. Chuck actually talked to the reporter. I usually just have myself quoted by involuntarily.
Yeah, I agree. There's beyond. This is beyond our normal time. I've done this for 30 years. I've never seen decisions take this long. Never. I'm disappointed as well. Hamza, Congress discussed the amendment of Meng next month. Is lottery still on the table? Yes.
I'm told that Meng is like, don't spend too much energy on it.
Meng is a non-issue. All right, Meng's not going to happen.
No chance that that's going to happen now. Famous.
Meng is not going to happen, but because the lottery, the reconciliation bill, recaptures all the numbers and really gets rid of the transfer from family to employment, family to employment. And because it's recapturing, Greg, I tried to run the numbers. So not counting, that's counting last year's 80,000. I think there's upwards of 300,000 employment-based visas.
I think it's somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000, and then there's probably a similar number on the family side that are available.
Well, and keep in mind, there's also 280 for this year, so that's probably close to 500,000.
It won't end the backlogs, that provision alone, but it'll probably knock it.
But the other provision
down, and then the rest of it, I think, people that are willing to pay the tax.
What is it, 2,500 tax?
That those people, once they pay that tax, they're out of the queue as well. So I do think that within about 2 years, every category would be current.
They're going to be current. It's all going to be current. So that's why the Meng amendment's not. Now, if this fails, well, maybe they bring Meng back, but I don't see Meng happening. Okay. We know H-1B case fraud. What can we do instead of waiting? Can we take the initiative? No. I mean, we've taken the initiative. We filed the complaint. It's kind of where we are with that. But if we don't have, I'm not going to commit to a timeline, but we know we need a decision to stop the lottery by March. So whether we have to file another complaint, we'll have to take a look at that. But I'd rather, because it will just get sent to the same judge, because it'll be a related case, and we'll be back in the same position we've been in. So that's kind of where we are with this.
But just as a warning to the government, we are not that we are prepared to take that step if they don't resolve this problem before then.
Yeah, Joe Carrilli has apparently left his position at the U.S. Attorney's Office. We don't know where he went. Good guy. We enjoyed working with him. And there's all different every case has a different lawyer now. And the case in
early to say
John Mustakas, I do not know him. I've never had him on a case before. I-45 delay lawsuit. We don't have a 45 delay lawsuit at this point because the judges dismissed those cases, those individual cases. There's Britt Simon. Good to see you, Britt. Hope you're doing well. He continues to be the main source of lottery information, or this year non-information, because this is literally, they're doing nothing. They keep, I don't know if you noticed, right? They keep moving the dates forward on the visa bulletin. So, I mean, they're now up to like 13,000 on one of the cases, but they haven't issued a single visa. So what's the purpose of moving it forward if you're not going to issue visas? And make everybody current again in June? I mean, that's, okay. Let's see. Any update on the FOIA request on the USCIS EB2, EB3 inventory that caused EB3 retrogression? No update on that. I heard memes, they removed the immigration part. That is not true. I'm going to tell you, if that happens, Democrats lose every election from now till the end of time. Because the Latino coalition that supported Democratic candidates will dissolve. I mean, they're going to be just completely, I mean, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be a bloodbath. I have been current since March visa ball, and the U.S. keeps sending SR responses as wait. Yes, you can sue them. You can sue them. But keep in mind, you have to look at where you're going to sue them. Clearly, you're not going to sue in Texas. You're not going to sue in Nebraska. Probably going to need to sue where you live, and hopefully that's in the Ninth Circuit, because that's probably where your best hope is.
Hey, Chuck, just on that Build Back Better thing, one other thing I forgot to mention is that there's one other source of pressure on the Senate Democrats to keep that language in there, and that's the House Democrats. There's a handful. The House only passed the Build Back Better, by what, 3 votes was their margin? Yeah. And there are a bunch of Hispanic caucus members who've said they will not vote for a final bill if the Senate doesn't do right by the immigrant community. So even if they want to strip out that language and have that vote in the Senate, there is a good chance that it will not pass in the House if they do that.
Yeah, I think it's a certainty it will not pass in the House. I don't care what kind of magic Nancy has; they're not going to vote for it. Yeah. By the way, we don't get judges assigned until like a month before oral argument. We don't know who the judges are.
And it will be 3 judges.
It'll be 3. We get 3 judges. And
that's how it works on the appeals court. And then if they lose, the government loses on that, they can request an en banc appeal, which is all of them. But
Greg, this is a great question. Okay, because I get these a lot. For EB folks from India that file downgrade, run to the other side of the ship, and those dates retrogression, and they're now current in their EB2.
Right.
What do? Here, I will tell you what USCIS position is this. If you have a pending adjustment for a EB3 that has retrogressed, and you have an approved EB2, their system automatically hooks the EB2 to the adjustment, supposedly.
Yeah.
Supposedly. My position is that you should interfile a letter that says, hey, here's my adjustment receipt notice. Here's my I-140 EB2 approval, interfile. And they use a different word. I forget the word they use, but I use it.
I mean, there's certainly no harm in doing that, and it could be helpful, like you suggest, and it doesn't cost you anything. So I think that's good practice.
But I do not believe you should file another adjustment. You're welcome to file another adjustment if you want to pay another $1 billion to the government, but I don't think that's necessary. The main question about the DV recapture for COVID and Muslim managed language, that is still, yes, that language is still in the bill as far as we know. Okay. All right. Yes, Britt is right. The moving bulletin is good for adjustment of status. And I'm going to tell you, if you won the lottery and you have a visitor visa, you should get, and your numbers get included, you should get on a freaking airplane and adjust that. Because, Greg, we had a number of people contact us in August.
I'm not sure I agree with that, because if you get the wrong CBP officer at the airport,
but if you have a visitor visa and you're coming to visit, and 60 days later you change your mind.
Right.
Well,
That's
we did have
that
people
right.
do
That's the footnote on that. Is
Yeah,
that
I mean, you have to worry about that,
there's
but
a question about immigrant intent. You have to be careful about that. But if your plans change once you're here, that's a different story.
yeah, you're coming to the United States to go to Disneyland and Dollywood, and oh, you know what? I decided to adjust my status because it was current. All right, there you go. 60 days later. All right. Good afternoon, Chuck. Good, Sarah. Good to see you. All right, Greg. That handles it for today. It is good to be back. I'm not. I was going to go to Germany, Greg, to go to Christmas markets, and had to cancel it. Germany's closed. You got to cancel the Christmas markets. So,
So I'm going to Santa Fe this week for.
As am I will see you in Santa Fe. We're speaking at a conference.
Then I'm going to Washington for the Physician Immigration Conference, and then we're taking a vacation Christmas. So.
Oh, I know where Aaron is. He's going to speak at a conference with me tomorrow in New York. Him and I are in the same panel.
Wait, which conference is that?
Except I'm not going to be in person, and he is. So,
I don't think I heard about that one.
Because I have to go to Santa Fe. That's the PLI conference in New York. So,
all right, yeah.
All right, everybody. It's great to see you. Have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday back here on the Impact Litigation channel. Bye-bye.